Today's podcast is sponsored by Farmhouse Teas. Welcome to Ample Flame, episode 4. I'm Meg. This is my husband, Ben. We are here tonight to talk about community.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, the working title, I guess, is People Needing People.
Yes, people needing people. So we've had a couple examples of this in our own life recently and also, I guess, in the past couple months. So we thought it would be a good subject to talk about. We did something really fun this weekend, so it kind of started the juices flowing on this, and we just figured we'd roll with it.
All right. Well, you got a whole list of notes over there.
I do,
I will
actually.
let you lead off. I only have a couple things on my list because I did zero show prep. My show prep was, hey, we got everything set up. Just hold up while I scribble some stuff on my notepad.
You did, so I'm going to hold this show tonight, huh? It's all on me.
Carry the show.
Okay. It's all on me. So like I said, we went somewhere fun this weekend. So we went to the Start Somewhere Homestead Conference. It was put on by some friends of ours, and we had a blast. It was really fun.
We did have a blast. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was a smaller event. So if you're not familiar with like homesteading conferences, this is a place to go, and there are speakers, and sometimes there'll be like hands-on demos. This time it was like chicken processing and some rabbit processing, and then they had speakers about gardening and beekeeping and herbalism and all kinds of like homestead-centered type things. Mm-hmm. And then you were actually a speaker.
I was the keynote speaker.
Yeah,
which is a title I'm still not cool with.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool. You were awesome, and you shared just our story.
Yep, just our story.
Where we've been and what we've gone through and where we are now, mm-hmm. and what homesteading has meant to us in our journey. And it was cool because we got to share it with our community, in a sense. People who follow us on YouTube. And our friends had invited us to come speak. And then new people, we got to meet new people, mm-hmm. and, build a little more community, mm-hmm. through that event. That's been one of the biggest things that we've enjoyed about going to events like this is we kind of like add people to our community, mm-hmm. in small bits, people that we meet and we like kick it off with. And I would say we find at least one set of people at each event, mm-hmm. that we, exchange numbers with or emails or adopt. Yeah, we adopt. It's
like, you're really cool. Too bad you live 4 hours from me.
Yeah, but, we exchange emails and stuff, yep. like that. So that's been cool. So that was a little like, community-centered event. But in general, we're not going to events all of the time. So that's not our sole...
entertainment.
Yeah, entertainment, and not our sole use of community,
yeah,
the only way we have it.
I think there is a difference in community. I've heard this in the YouTube space. I'm talking YouTube. I've heard the word community thrown around, and people mean their patrons, their viewers,
and their online buddies.
Their online buddies, people that they haven't necessarily met face to face. We're not exactly talking about that in this episode.
Yeah. We don't mean online community.
We don't mean online community. We mean your support group, the people who show up.
Right.
That's kind of where we're at with community, even though we just talked about, there was a lot of viewers we met at this conference. A lot of them we've met before.
Yeah.
A lot of locals. One of the things that was kind of cool about this event, I'm going to change tracks and backtrack a little bit. The event planners, they knew we could pull in people if we talked about it. Mm-hmm. And they said, please don't say anything about it. We want to try to sell tickets the organic way.
Yes.
Which was like, what? Like,
because usually event organizers are like, please promote everything. Like, we need all the ticket sales we can get. Yeah. And we don't, not that they don't care who comes, but like they would like you to promote it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for them to say, hey, we just really want to offer it to local people because what they wanted was to build local community.
Yes.
And that was really awesome to us.
It was a breath of fresh air.
It was, because we feel like a local in-person community is very, very important.
Very valuable.
Yes.
Like extremely valuable.
Online community is great. We've made a lot of friends online in various places, but at the end of the day, the ones who are available in an emergency situation are your local community. And these are the people that show up, or you can show up to easily.
Yep. So whereas they didn't have a huge amount of ticket sales to local people, one of the ways they went old school with it. They advertised with flyers.
Yes.
They did it physically in person. They went to feed stores, they found bulletin boards, and they put up flyers for their event, which that
right.
Thinking back, because we're old enough to remember life before cell phones.
Yes.
And Facebook and all of that. And how did you hear about, like for me, concerts? How did I hear about concerts? Well, you could go to your favorite band's website and check out their tour list.
Or their MySpace.
Or MySpace. Oh my gosh. But that was about it back in, the early 2000s. But the way you really found out about local upcoming shows, because, Bakersfield had a pretty good band scene.
Yeah.
There was quite a band scene when I was in it. Well, you'd go to a concert, and when the concert's done, there's a line of guys, the dudes from the various bands playing, and they're handing out flyers.
Yes.
And it's a list of all the shows that are coming up. The venue would hand out flyers of all the bands they're putting on,
right.
Stuff like that. That was how you learned about shows.
Yeah.
Well, and then, the internet age happened, and all of a sudden there's no more flyers, and you learn of stuff through Facebook and Instagram,
right.
and all these online places. So it was really refreshing to hear that they tried doing it organically. And what was really cool, this is going to sound funny, like given our line of work right now, there were people who had absolutely no idea who we were.
Yes.
And it was so refreshing.
It was.
Because these are people that they saw a flyer,
yeah.
They bought a ticket, and they showed up, and they're like, what are you talking about? I had a guy ask me, he's like, are you the videographer? And it's like, no, actually, I'm the keynote speaker. And he was like, what? Why are you walking around with a camera? Because it's my job. Like, we have a YouTube channel, and so I'm, trying to get some B-roll of this event.
Yeah.
So it was refreshing.
Yeah.
And it was encouraging because those were local people to our friends that are putting on this event, and they just wanted to go to a homestead event.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was cool. It kind of gave me hope, because in a weird way, doing everything online is cool because there's this reach that people have never had before. You can reach out and talk to people that are, 1,000 miles away. You can bring people in from across the country to your event without ever making a physical flyer.
Right.
But what's weird is, like, how do you tell people locally? Because there might be people in your community that aren't in the same circles you're in online.
Right.
Well, good old flyer at the feed store.
Yeah. Or a library, or a coffee shop.
Yep.
Yeah. That was actually really, really cool to see that is still a viable option.
It's still a viable option.
And you can build community that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think what's weird thinking about it, there's not a lot of people who take the time to look up from their phone to see the world around them, and especially see a flyer hung on a wall. But there are still people out there that still look up. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. I just wanted to dwell on that just for a second.
Very encouraging for society.
It is. It is. There are still people out there. And I will say, they were our generation.
Yes.
That age people. So people our age that, I'm going to say it, most people our age are so hopelessly addicted to their devices.
Oh, absolutely.
They never look up.
Yes.
And there was a lot of people that had no idea who we were that saw the flyers and bought a ticket, and they were our age. And so it's very encouraging.
It was.
There's more people like us.
Yes.
Out there. Weirdos that like to look up.
That's right. Taking the actual outdoors. Yes. Okay, well, why don't we jump in and talk about the need for community? Because we live in an age that's very individualistic and very, I can take care of myself. I don't need anybody. And we've been guilty of that.
We are guilty of that.
We've totally been guilty of that. I mean, I think a lot of our early marriage in particular, we were like, it's fine. We don't need anybody. We're going to take on the world. And while, like, being able to sustain yourself is important, we have also come to the point in our older age where we're like, that's not realistic or necessarily healthy to be so independent that you're like, I'm never going to have any community. We also have children that need spouses at some point. So we're like, maybe we should find some
Maybe
community.
maybe we should have just a little bit of community.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the need for community beyond just like being able to go to events and hang out with people.
Okay. So I'm going to jump straight into the top of my list right here.
Do it.
September of 2024, we had Hurricane Helene come through our area, and it decimated up here in the mountains.
Yes.
Our immediate community, we didn't have so much of the water damage because, we're not in the mountains where we're at. We're in the foothills.
Right.
There were neighbors that parts of their property are absolutely gone.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was cow pastures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people down here, there's rolling hills. There's room to get away from the river.
Mm-hmm.
Up in the mountains, everybody, you just need a flat spot. The only flat spots are around the rivers.
Right. Or the sides of the mountains left.
The sides of the mountains decided to come down.
Yes.
So it was carnage.
Yeah.
Still, here it is. What is it? 6-7 months later?
Yeah, something like that.
And if we drive up there, it's unbelievable the damage that is still there. Everything's green now, and so there's a lot of tree cover covering up some of these
hiding
places.
Yeah.
But when you see the mudslide areas where a mudslide came down the mountain, the whole side of the mountain sloughed off all the way down to bedrock, taking houses with it. It's just shocking.
Yes.
Basically, the damage we had around here was tree damage.
Mm-hmm.
We had, tiny tornadoes spawn off, and there's just areas where there's trees just twisted in circles, just tangled messes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had one tree snap and fall in the pig pen, and they had it cleaned up before I got to it. They ate it all.
Yeah.
Everything they could reach.
Yes.
That was the extent of the damage here. I mean, there's a couple, we're out in the barn, and there's a couple pieces of metal roofing that kind of peeled up a little bit.
Right.
No big deal.
Yeah,
they didn't blow off. They stayed put. But the main damage was obviously power was out.
Right.
We were without power for 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
Various neighbors, there's some elderly neighbors around us, and you never know what kind of situation they're in. And so, I don't know, we haven't been real good neighbors. I think that's what I figured out when all this went down. So we see all the damage. We see the trees all piled up on the road. Me and the boys grab chainsaws and the tractor, and we start clearing. Our neighbor Michaela was the first to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Taylor were the first ones to show up, and they helped us clear 2 miles of our road.
Yes.
They were busy helping, their side of the street for a while, and then they came down and caught up to us after we'd cleared a bunch.
Yeah.
And we basically worked from, I think the storm stopped. We could go outside.
It was about 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yeah.
We worked from 10 a.m. until it got dark.
Mm-hmm.
And they were right there with us.
Yeah.
That's our immediate community, our neighbors.
Yes.
They live pretty close to us. And it was really eye-opening to realize, hey, these are the immediate people in our immediate circle,
right,
that will show up.
Yes.
Part of the reason we were trying to open up our road is so we could go help our other friends,
right,
that are, between 5 and 10 miles away.
Yeah. So by car in a normal setting, they're about 15 minutes. It took us literally all day to get 2 miles down the road.
Yes.
We weren't getting to them that day.
That was a realization.
Yeah.
We round the bend, and there's a section where it's a property that's just all grown up in pine trees, real tall pine trees.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say probably 80% of those pine trees were in the road.
Yes.
It was hundreds of 12-inch thick
mm-hmm.
pine trees, heavy, big pine trees. And they were just a tangled, jumbled mess. My tractor could only pick up 10-foot logs of these trees because they were so heavy. And so cutting these off the road was quite a chore. When we got to that mess, it was like, oh, we're not getting to our other friends today.
Yeah. And that was kind of a realization as far as community goes. Our friends that live further away are definitely part of our community, and they are part of our close-knit community, mm-hmm. our inner community, I guess you could say.
Our inner circle.
Our inner circle. But in an emergency situation, that's not possible.
Yep.
In a place where we can't get our cars through.
Yep.
That wasn't possible. And so we realized, our actual, immediate community, maybe not inner circle as far as like friendships, but immediate community is the people that we can get to on foot within, a small amount of time.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a really eye-opening experience for us, was going through Helene and the aftermath and the cleanup and all that stuff. I am a big tea drinker, and I've been buying from Farmhouse Teas for years now, and for good reason. Cian and her family handcraft the most amazing loose-leaf teas that are as beautiful as they are delicious. Whether you're winding down after chores or just want something special in your cup, there's a blend for every season. Head over to farmhouseteas.com and use the code HOLLER10 for 10% off. If tea is not your thing, no worries. They also have organic bulk herbs, elderberry syrup mixes, medicinal plant seeds, and more.
So one of the things that was interesting, I don't want to judge or put anybody down. That's not what I'm trying to do here. There was a lot of neighbors that didn't even have the tools to cut the trees off their driveway. The attitude that was shocking was the attitude that everybody had of, well, someone's going to come clean this up. And then we actually had some neighbors that saw me and the boys cleaning stuff up, and they were like, see, someone's cleaning it up.
Yes.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I will be the someone. I just, my main concern was like, as long as my neighbors can get out of their driveways onto an open road and get to town if they need something. We're going to be without power for a while. People are going to need water. People are going to need food. That was kind of my concern. I'm not trying to be, Captain Fantastic over here saving the world. It was weird. It was like, well, this is what needs to be done, so this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, so I think what you're kind of trying to get at, or maybe I'm just interjecting my thoughts here, is because we live in an age where everybody is so distant from community and from talking to our neighbors and from, everybody lives online now, the attitude was, oh, somebody's going to show up, instead of let's band together as a community and help take care of each other. Like you said, we're not judging. I'm just saying this is kind of something we've noticed has come to light in our society as a whole, whether there's an emergency or not, is just we are so disconnected from each other because of the internet, because the internet's made it so easy to just be like, oh, I'm just going to talk to people online. And that's what you view as community, that the face-to-face in-person interactions are not there anymore. And so when something happens in an emergency situation, and I realize that shock is a thing and how people deal with things, that's all legitimate. And I'm sure there were a lot of neighbors that were didn't even know how to deal.
That was something that was weird to see. Is we would get to a driveway, people would come out and you just see the look on their face. Everybody we talked to said the same thing. I have never seen anything like this in my life.
Right.
Our, 87-year-old neighbor was like, I have never seen a storm that rips out the old oak trees.
Right.
She goes, I've never seen this. This is an unbelievable storm.
Right.
And yeah, it was traumatizing, for real. And, when you're sitting in your house wondering if, hey, are we going to be all right? We're 40 feet above the bottom of the property. I was never worried about water.
Right.
But I'm watching trees bend and snap and, move. I was like, am I going to have to worry about a tree joining us for dinner?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's kind of traumatizing watching nature just wreak havoc like that.
Yeah.
So something else that was interesting through all of that was we got to meet a lot of neighbors.
Yeah. So, and I think that's typical. A lot of times you do stay disconnected from your neighbors until an emergency situation presents itself.
And what happened through that is a lot of neighbors, come to find out, they all knew exactly where I lived.
And what we did. They're like, oh, you're the people with the farm.
Yeah. You're the ones with all those apple trees up in the front yard.
Yeah.
Yep, that's us. They might not know about YouTube, but they knew where we lived.
Right.
And the ones who cared made sure they made a point and they said thank you for, opening up the road. Because it was still a whole week before we saw the state come through and start opening up the road. I've heard some stuff that, if I'd got out on the main thoroughfares and was doing that, I actually could have gotten in trouble for that.
That's a whole
That's
rant that I
dumb.
could get on.
Yeah, we could rant about
Yeah,
that.
we don't need to go down that. We're talking about community tonight.
Talking about community, not
the anger at the government.
That's dumb.
It was dumb.
But anyways, so yeah, it was kind of cool. Kind of made me aware of the fact that, hey, maybe I should be a better neighbor and actually go meet my neighbors before there's trees in their driveway.
Right.
But there was good that came of it.
Yeah, totally.
So I believe I've met most of the neighbors on our street
within a 2 mile.
Yeah, within a 2 mile 2 mile radius.
Yeah, either way. Yeah.
And it was a positive.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so kind of to come back around to the community aspect, that was definitely an emergency situation for immediate community. And like we said, that was a really eye-opening experience for us, and kind of put community in a different light for certain things. But when we're talking community tonight, what we mostly mean is like just the general idea of physical community in your, area, county, city, whatever. So some examples of community that we mean and why we are realizing it's important for building community or to build community. We have a couple of really good examples of this year is we did not start any seeds this year in our garden. Life's been really crazy. We're trying to get our house addition built. We also have a 1-year-old. So like
there's been a lot going on.
Time and space are like not really a free thing right now. We are really, really focused on this house build. And then, running all of our normal things in between then as far as like keeping people fed and clothed and all that kind of stuff. So we just kind of spaced it. It's not that we didn't want to, or we said we weren't going to. We just like did not get to it.
Time got away from us.
Yeah, and it's kind of a time limit thing. Yeah. Like you have to have them in by a certain period of time so you can get them in the ground by your frost date and all that stuff. So what's funny is our neighbor Michaela, she is a fantastic neighbor, by the way, just so you all know. She was like, hey, I have started so many seeds this year. I've got tomatoes and squash and peppers and cucumbers and all kinds of stuff. Do you want these? There's more than I need. I've planted everything in my garden and I'm just reaching out to my friends. And I was like, actually, yes, that would be really fantastic. And so I traded her some meat because I was like, can I pay you? She's like, absolutely not. And I was like, well, I'll give you some meat. So traded her some meat. And so we, almost all of our garden is from her this year. I also had a friend come visit from Kentucky and she brought plants with her as well. So I've got like the other half of my garden is from my friend Jess. And so that was a blessing of community that I wasn't expecting to receive this year.
Yep. Hadn't
planned on it at all. And we actually were kind of just sitting here going, well, we can throw some green beans in the ground and, we'll have that.
We were actually planning on going to the nursery.
Yes.
Go to Lowe's or whatever and
the bonnie plants.
Yeah. That'll be our garden this year.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with going to Lowe's and buying bonnie plants.
Yeah. Well, I'd go to a local greenhouse.
Yeah, shop local. Which we've done before. Like,
totally.
There's been stuff like I've had the hardest time growing cayenne peppers.
Yes.
I had seeds from a friend. I've got seeds from various seed places. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe I wasn't holding my tongue right, but the seeds would mold or the seeds wouldn't germinate. So last year it was like, fine, forget it. Let's go to the nursery. And I went to the nursery and bought cayenne peppers.
Right.
Planted them.
They did great. Yeah.
They did great.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with going and buying your
No, and I'll
your
usually
stuff.
buy like our fall starts.
Yeah,
at a
cabbages
nursery.
and stuff like that. Yep.
Because when it's the middle of summer, I do not have the time or space.
I think you're supposed to start, like for us, we're supposed to start our cabbages and broccoli for fall in like July and August.
Yeah.
That's the middle of tomato season.
It ain't happening.
It ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So we could have gone to the nursery and we had thought about it, but our friends like stepped in without even us planning on it. And they provided a whole garden for us, basically, which we are super thankful for. So we've been blessed by community and that's been great. Another thing that's happened this year is it just stacked out to where we ate through all of our chicken and we had a huge snafu that we've talked about on our YouTube channel with getting meat birds. And so our meat birds, we are actually like a month and a half behind on our meat birds.
Like 6 weeks behind.
It's like 6 weeks. It's going to be actually like 8 weeks now because they're taking a little bit longer to grow out than what we had planned. And so we ate through a chicken. And so I text a friend who they raised them to sell. And I was like, hey, do you happen to have any extras? I know it's well into the year. I knew they weren't going to be butchering anymore for a couple, like 6 more weeks.
Yep.
I was like, if you happen to have any chicken, could I buy some from you? And she was like, actually, yes, it's like 14 whole chickens left from last year. I'll give them to you half price, that kind of thing. So that was a huge blessing. And
it was nice because like we ate through all of our chicken because we didn't raise enough.
Right.
We didn't raise a beef this past winter.
Yes.
Or, didn't butcher a beef. So we were quickly chewing through all of our meat.
Yes.
All of our pork. It was kind of getting to panic time, and you just...
Yeah.
You were like, hold on. I think I know somebody.
Yeah.
So
same on the beef as well.
Yeah, same on the beef.
Because of the community that we have made, we had somebody who, sorry, I keep bumping the mic. I was like, hey, we didn't raise a beef this year. Mm-hmm. We couldn't find a calf to raise for ourselves. Do you guys have any steers available that we could buy? And they did. And so they took it to the processor for us, and we were able to pick that up
from them. Yep.
Yeah. So that's been a huge blessing, rather than having to like search it out at the farmer's market or, buy from the grocery store, which are all like options. Or buying, for direct from like beef farmers necessarily, which we have done before. Mm-hmm. We're happy to do that. But it was just nice to get like an entire cow that we were able to purchase from friends. And, it's just all that community stuff that is awesome.
Let's delve into that friends subject a little bit. I've seen the comments. I've talked to people that have all said the same thing. They get into this homestead life, and they're the only ones doing this. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily even homesteading, just raising your own food, trying to be more self-sufficient.
Right.
Where do you find like-minded people? How do you make friends that are interested in this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
That's a very hard thing.
We do get that question a lot. Or the flip side of, I just wish I could find somebody. I'm so alone.
Yep. And we've been there.
Yeah, totally.
We haven't always been YouTubers.
No, that's been recent.
That's a recent thing. Whereas, we've met a lot of people because of YouTube. I would say there's a lot of people that we've made friends with that are outside of, like, they don't know we do YouTube. They don't care,
Yes.
Honest to goodness, like, people we have met, and they're in our close circles.
Yes. So, like, how would you find those
Yeah.
people? Okay, go to your feed store and put out flyers. So we did talk a little bit about events. That is a possibility. I've seen people exchange numbers at events. We've had people come to the classes that we host, our workshops, and they totally hit it off because you spend, 2 or 3 days with people.
Yep.
You totally hit it off there, and people have made long-lasting friendships from that. Mm-hmm. So if you can find classes and workshops that you can get to, that would be a great place. But also, like, I realize not everyone needs to go to a workshop because they're not necessarily like deep in it like we are.
Yeah.
We've met a lot of people through our Azure group, our Azure Standard groceries. So if you go to azurestandard.com, you'll get the lowdown on that. So it's a bulk grocery delivery, and it's a lot of healthy foods, so organics. And they're pretty strict about what they allow and don't allow.
Yep.
So no GMOs, no pesticides, like all that kind of stuff. Really clean stuff. And so we've met a lot of like-minded people because we're all looking for clean food. Mm-hmm. And so we've met people at that drop that we've hit it off with. We've, had them over to our house.
That had no idea we do YouTube.
No idea we do. Right.
We just start talking.
Yeah.
Hey, we're all buying this organic food. We're all, the way it works is you put in your order, and then they pack the truck and ship the truck across the country, and then you show up on the day that the truck's going to get there. Mm-hmm. You never know when it's going to get there.
Well, I mean, ahead of time.
But
month to month, it's different.
It just depends on when they get there.
Yeah.
Storms, traffic, whatever.
Right.
Everybody from the drop, if you ordered something, you're going to be notified. You show up, you help unload the truck, and then you get your groceries and go home.
Right.
Like, it's kind of cool. It's honestly, for a lot of months, if we don't have events going on or classes or stuff like that, that's our social interaction sometimes.
Yeah, and I know there are a lot of people in our drop that
feel the
is
same
their
way.
social interaction.
Their monthly social interaction.
So, and because of what it is and the people that kind of attracts, a lot of them are homeschoolers as well. A
There's
lot of them are
homeschoolers.
homesteading because we're concerned about our food.
Mhm.
So you have like the clean eating group and also the homesteading group and also the homeschooling group. And they're not all that way, but you can find somebody in one of those groups, you know?
I guess really it comes down to like, don't be afraid to talk to people.
Yeah.
Don't be a clam.
Right.
Like,
which I also am guilty of because it is very easy for me to just be like in my little bubble.
don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me. I am kind of like, I have social anxiety, which nobody would believe because they tell me that. I don't believe you do. But I do sometimes. I get
Meg,
very
big time.
nervous about talking to people.
Meg is not an outgoing, like, I'm going to go. She's not an extrovert.
No.
Very much an introvert. Both of us are, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I can do it, but it makes me uncomfortable sometimes. So it is hard. But yes, to your point, like, don't be that way. Don't be like me.
Go talk to people and make friends.
Yeah, just like strike up a conversation. Like, oh, hey, I see that organic chicken you got there.
I mean, maybe scoping on their groceries might not be the best way,
I've
but
done it. And what I usually say is like, hey, that's a great brand. I love that brand.
Tell me about this.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Tell me more about your cultured sour cream.
Right? Yes.
Oh, it makes really good.
Yeah,
whatever.
Right.
Oh, that actually sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And then now you're talking to them.
Yeah, totally.
And then before you know it, you know how many chickens they have.
Right.
And are they raising pork or lamb or something?
Yes.
I think what's been crazy is talking to people in our Azure group. There are a lot of people who either raise beef or raise poultry or lamb. I just actually 2 weekends ago found out that there's someone that I had no idea they raise and sell lamb.
Oh.
And it was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of lamb? And they're like, oh, we just do Katahdins. It's like, oh my gosh, that's the best lamb ever.
Yes.
That's woolly beef.
Right.
I love Katahdin lamb.
It is good.
It is tasty. It tastes just like beef. But yeah, learning that, it's like, well, then I'm just going to add that to the list of connections.
Yeah.
Speaking of connections, I would like to talk about, so in California, we had all of our connections for food, for clean food. We had our beef person and our chicken person and our pork person and, vegetable hookups. We knew where to go to get the clean food that we couldn't grow. And not to mention every other connection that we'd ever made. When we left California, we left all that behind.
Yeah.
When we got out here, aside from like one or two people, we knew zero people.
Right.
We bought this place. Our realtor didn't even live anywhere near here.
No, he lived 2 hours away.
I don't believe our realtor ever set foot on this property.
I don't think he did, no.
It was all remote and
yeah,
it was
he
crazy.
was a fantastic realtor. It just happened to be that this property, our schedules couldn't mesh up.
So it was really weird coming out here. We're Californians that moved across the country and moved to small town America.
Yeah.
And this is truly small town.
It's great. I love it.
There's actually someone at this event that's, this past weekend, 2.5 hours away from us. And I was talking to a guy that went to high school in this town.
Yes.
And it was just like,
just hilarious.
He didn't know who we were.
Right.
He's like, so where are you guys from? And I told him the county, and he's like, oh, yeah, I went to, and he names the high school. And he's like, yeah, and he names our town. I was like, that's where we live.
Very small
And
world.
he gave me this crazy look.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, I grew up there.
That's funny.
It was just small world stuff, small town stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a small town. So we're very much outsiders.
Yeah.
Anybody knows anything about a small town? Outsiders are kind of frowned upon.
We've had a lot of interrogations. Not mean, just, they want to know who we are, where we're from, and what we're about.
What do we believe?
And that's fine.
I understand.
Yeah, I totally understand it. We have a lot of people around it. We were talking about our immediate community, our neighbors. A lot of them all belong to the same family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of weird too, because it's like, oh, well, there's Bob up the hill and Joe down the street and Dave around the corner, and they're all cousins,
uncles, or third, fourth cousins. Everybody's related somehow.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I wouldn't say weird, but
it makes it hard to build community because you are the outsider.
Yes.
Yeah.
They already have their community.
Right.
Why would they let you in? So that's been something, a kind of a, not really a hard thing to overcome because, once you start making friends, you've got friends. I guess, you got to find people who are like-minded. You got to find people who are interested in the same things you are. And the only way you can do it is by going out and meeting people,
You have to
talking
go
to
out,
people. First impressions kind of go a long way.
They do.
And it's been interesting as a Californian. Californians generally aren't real friendly.
No, typically not very.
And that was the hardest thing to get over. Not that I'm unfriendly. It's that
we're used to people being unfriendly.
We're used to people who are unfriendly. So you say, hey, how you doing? They're like, fine. Don't look at me.
Right.
And so, conversation.
Do not ask them about their cultured sour cream.
Yes, do not. That's weird. Why is this weirdo talking to me? I'm sure there's people out here that feel that way. Yeah. But generally, you can start a conversation with someone and you'll be standing at the checkout at the grocery store for 30 minutes, holding up traffic.
Yeah.
Just having a conversation about whatever.
I love it.
Like, it's awesome. It's so refreshing that there are still people that are friendly.
Yes. Circle back around a little bit to like how you can find community. Something that just popped into my head is like for the Weston A. Price Foundation. Mm-hmm. We've talked about them before. They're a great resource for finding information about healthy food and diet and stuff like that. The book Nourishing Traditions is put out by them. If you're familiar with that, you know what I'm talking about. If not, go look them up. Weston A. Price Foundation. But so they have chapters. So it's volunteer chapters where one person will be in charge of the chapter, and you can get a hold of them to find resources for local food, beef, milk, butter, cheese, like all the things that they produce, the clean produce. And a lot of times they will host meetings. They'll do classes on particular things like how to ferment vegetables or a diet presentation. So you could find something like that if that's what you're trying to find. So you can go to that website and you can find chapters for meeting about food and stuff like that. That's a great place to meet people. So things like that. You could meet somebody at a feed store. Tractor Supply has like the animal swaps or like sales every now and then. Those are homesteady.
I think the Rural King, it's I don't know, a half an hour, 45 minutes from here. They have this huge animal selling swap meet.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's like once a month or something like that.
You could go meet people that way.
Yeah.
You just kind of got to keep your ear to the ground and think, like, seriously sit down and think, okay, like, do you actually want to meet people? Do you want friends?
Yes.
Do you want
That's a
community?
good question.
Because honestly, guys, it is hard work.
It is.
To build relationships and maintain relationships.
Yes. One of my notes, actually, I'm going to just read it. It says, living in community has to be selfless and not selfish. So you have to put yourself out there and you have to be a member of your community if you want to be in community. Meaning, you're not always asking people to come over and help you without reciprocating. You have to reciprocate. This is for conversationally. This is for helping with chores. This is like just having people over to dinner. Like,
yeah, people
are coming to your house. They invite you there. Like it has to be a community thing rather than a selfish thing. An example we have a group local to us that's just kind of like a homesteader support group. And it's a great group. So it's just a bunch of homesteaders that have gotten together that we meet once a month. And usually there's like a topic, somebody will teach a class on a particular thing like dairy animals or sourdough, ham radios, like communications, that kind of thing. And then there's potluck lunch and then just fellowship the rest of the day. And that's been really, really awesome because like our kids all get to play and we get, adult time.
That has been something interesting is this group is a lot of like-minded people.
Yes.
There's 50 bajillion kids.
There are so many
There are so many kids. It is astounding how many people in this group are like us and have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids.
Yeah.
Like it's refreshing.
It is. It's so nice to go see big families.
Definitely don't feel alone in this group.
Totally not. And so one of the things that spins off from that is it's a helping group. So when somebody has a very large project that they need, lots of hands, then we all kind of just get together, figure out a day we can all go. And so recently we were helping a friend with his fencing project. So he's had this like 7-acre massive fencing project that has
Fencing
taken
the whole property.
weeks and weeks and weeks.
Woven wire fencing.
Yes. So we've not always been able to come to every weekend. So, a handful of people will come whenever they're able.
Mm-hmm.
So every couple weeks, there's a new handful of people, and you've gone to a couple. Well, I think what's really hilarious is this last one. It was the last push. All the posts are in.
Yeah, we got all the posts in, got all the T-posts pounded. All we had to do was roll out the fence, stand it up, stretch it, wire it on. It's the last hurrah.
Yeah.
I think all he's got to do now is hang gates, but he was like, I don't need help for that. I can hang gates. The last day, there was quite a few people who showed up.
It was. I think we were all very excited for this. We were like, we're going to do it.
Well, it's because, you come and there's no fence. And when you leave, there's a fence.
Yes.
So that's the most exciting day.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Tell the story. I was actually farther down the fence.
You were pretty busy. Yeah.
But I was close enough to hear this little exchange that went on.
Yes. So I came in the morning with you guys, and then we were going to do like a potluck hangout later in the afternoon. So the rest of the wives were not there yet. They were all, half of them had soccer and all that kind of thing. So I just came with you guys. All the Ben and the boys were all helping. And so I was there by myself. And so
baby strapped to her back.
Strapped to my back.
She's helping stretch fence.
I mean, I wasn't helping very much, but I was trying. I was there for more support mostly. So I'm out front when this guy drives by.
Mind you, like the whole crew is out front. Like,
yes.
All these guys are out front. We're running the section of fence that runs along the road.
Yes. So they're all stripping wire and, getting the little grippy things ready and stretching it out and down on their knees and dealing with hammers and all this kind of stuff. And this guy drives by and he's staring at one of the men. And I thought he was looking at me. I mean, we do have a YouTube channel, so we do happen to have times where people like recognize us out in public. And so the way he was looking was the guy that he was staring at was behind me. So I kind of thought he was looking at me, and I was like, okay, this guy probably recognizes us. He's like staring. He's mad dogging this guy behind me. I thought it was me, but it was the guy behind me. And he like slows way down. This is a pretty busy road. He slows way down and he goes, Tyler. And I was like, okay, well, my name's not Tyler, and I clearly do not look like a Tyler. At least I hope not. And so I like turn around to the guy behind me, and the guy's like, no. And he's like, oh, I thought you were Tyler. Okay, well, all right. Well, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we're running fence. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So he takes off. Well, we hear him go up the road, stop, turn around, come back. He slows down again. He's like, so are you guys like a church group or something? He says, how did you get so many people together in one place at the same time? And we're like, well, we're just a group of friends that are helping put this fence up. And he is flabbergasted.
Oh, he was absolutely flabbergasted.
He cannot figure out how we got, 8 people together on a Saturday morning to put up this fence. And as I'm standing there, like, watching this and listening to this, and of course, we're yucking it up because we're like, oh, we're part of a cult. We're just joking. But I was like, man, how sad that this man, he was our age, probably, maybe 10 years older.
I would say he was probably our age. He looked like 30s or 40s.
Yeah. Like, how sad that community and working together in person was so unusual to this man that he was like, how did you get this many people together?
Yeah. We all, like, as a group, were talking about that. Like, how, like...
This shouldn't be weird.
That shouldn't be weird. And the fact that, we're not a church group. We're just a support group of homesteaders and, like-minded people, kind of preppery, I guess.
Sort of.
People who are just interested in helping each other, having the reciprocal connection to where I'll help you put up a fence, you come help clear the woods.
Right.
That kind of stuff. It was so weird for this guy to see a group of people that weren't in a church or a cult.
Right.
Getting together, like...
And working.
All I could think is, like, don't you have friends?
Yeah.
You don't have any friends that can come help you?
Right.
And I guess not, because it was like an alien concept.
It was like the look on his face was like completely shocked.
I actually kind of wish we had like told him,
like
hey,
invited
man,
him. Yeah.
Do you homestead? Do you need help with stuff?
Right.
Like, give us your number. Like, we'll help you out.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't, he wasn't like, oh, I need help with blah, blah. But it was weird I guess it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier of society as a whole has gotten so used to only communicating on the internet that apparently the idea of getting together in person and helping your buddy put up his fence was like the most bizarro thing ever. I don't know. It was weird.
It's kind of sad if you think about it.
It is. Yeah, it is really sad.
Hey, hold on.
What?
Is your back sore?
No.
From carrying the show?
Oh, you've talked a lot, babe. It's okay. I appreciate the back-to-back. All right. So one of the last notes that I have that I think is actually important, and this kind of goes back to when you were talking about Helene and how, you and the boys were out there clearing trees and stuff. Community actually starts in your own family. I think the point I want to make with that is if you cannot work well with the people in your own household, you probably won't be working well with people outside your household.
Now, I can play devil's advocate to that.
Okay.
I absolutely worked very well with other guys.
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
In the workplace. Some not so
not
much.
so much. That's just people.
But yeah, it's just people and me. There was a long time that it was just like, well, kids are a lost cause, like, wasting my time, that kind of attitude. And it was a very piss poor attitude to have about my own family.
Yeah.
And it really stemmed from, I was working so much, I was never around my family. And so, if you're pointing the finger, look at your hand.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 more fingers pointing back at you. Before you go point the finger, really look at your situation. The reason I wasn't happy with my boys' behavior and participation and stuff like that was because I hadn't put in the time to train them and to put them in my back pocket and, show them how to work and what to do and stuff like that. So when we decided to completely change our lives and pursue, growing our food and really focusing on our family, one of the first things I did when we got here was I had to start putting my boys in my back pocket because the absolute ginormous task that it is doing all of this, growing your food, dealing with a property that is overgrown jungle, I need help.
Right.
And I would say that was one of the hardest things for me personally, was admitting, hey, I need help.
Yes.
And I've got these teenage boys that need something to do. And so it's been hard relinquishing control of, my lawnmower and the tractor and tools,
all the toys you like to play with.
Teaching them, training them, and turning them loose has been really hard because of, I guess, my programming. It's like 2 of the boys are 18.
Right.
We have a soon-to-be 16-year-old that is very capable.
Mm-hmm.
Our 13-year-old is very capable. And so, getting to the point where I actually admitted, hey, like, not only are these boys capable, but if I keep them in my back pocket, then it's not like pulling teeth to get them out here to help me. They're willing.
Right.
They're like, hey, Dad, what are we getting into today?
Yes.
And they'll be right there with me.
I would say that's actually one of the odd benefits of not having community here when we landed. Because you didn't have people that could show up and help you do all the projects, is you had to rely on your boys. We had to rely on our boys. And so in a way, it was actually a blessing because we had to create our own little community in our household. First.
We had to rely on our own household.
Yes.
First.
Yes. And that's what I think it really should be, is community is household first, and then it ripples out from there. And so now, instead of we're part of a homestead help group and you're the only one who knows how to do anything, we now have a literal crew of men that can go.
That are capable. Everybody knows how to use a chainsaw.
Right.
Everybody knows how to drive a tractor.
Yes.
Like, it's a crew of men helping put up that fence. There was one of the days, it was just me and the boys, and then there was like 2 or 3 other guys that showed up that day, and it was kind of weird looking around, realizing it's like, oh my gosh, like, me and the boys we're the bulk of the work crew today,
yeah.
and we are getting it done. it's kind of cool. It's, proud papa for
Of
sure.
course.
It's like, look at my boys, proud of my boys. But at the same time, it's been a lot of work training up my boys how to work.
Yeah.
But the reward is so much more than I ever thought.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Thank you for joining us. If you want to catch some extra episodes or get ad-free, you can join us on Patreon. We got a Patreon page that we do, like I said, the after show. So we usually dive a little bit deeper. We speak a little bit freer sometimes, and go into more personal details in that. And you can also get early release episodes. So you get them a day early, which, I mean, if you're into that, that's cool too. So join us there if you're interested. Otherwise, I hope you will join us on the next episode.